Just a few announcements before we get started. Please silence your phones if you're here, or mute your microphones at home. Okay. And we have a retreat coming up from July 14th to the 18th with John Orr. So if you're interested, you know what to do. Go to our website and click on the retreat option. It'll give you all the information you're looking for. Also, Venerable Potawatomi is offering a book study. This is each Thursday at 5 p.m. The book is Learning from Buddha by Buddha Master His Holiness Dory Chang, Buddha III. So if you're interested, you can also go to our website and go to our retreat page, and you can click on the book study option, and you can register there and get the Zoom link for that class. Our Novena prayers are occurring monthly every third Thursday, so please continue to send in your monthly confidential prayer requests for yourself or loved ones. This can include pets and those who are sick, suffering, misfortune, or departed, and that can be sent to prayer@heartwoodrefuge.org. Fully vaccinated Sangha members are invited to Heartwood for Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday Dharma. So we're happy to see you all here. And if you're not here yet, come on in. And please like, follow, and share Heartwood and Thrifty Treasures on social media to help spread the Dharma and further Heartwood's message. Thank you.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good afternoon, Sangha. With your permission, I would like to continue working from Sutta 7, the simile of the claw. And I'd just like to highlight some things that I didn't speak on the Tuesday that we were together. And that involves why this particular teaching is offered with a simile or okay, why percent? There's a lot of phrases and words that are used to describe the teaching method known as simile or allegory or metaphor. And very they have nuances as to what one is called and what one isn't called correctly as far as identification is concerned. But this particular sutta, the simile of the sword, of the claw, tells us that we have the potential to have these defilements in our mind. Now, of course, what we know is that from the very beginning, we were taught that mind is chief. Mind made are we. So it points us in the right direction. It tells us that if we have any issues with reality, if we have any concerns or any nervousness or any beef with life and reality, that it's not reality, it's the mind that is distorted. And that we should be able to, or we should have the basic training in order to modify that thinking so that our outpicturing, our presentation, our interpretation of what life is about and what life is offering us has a better milder picture. So he says, the Buddha that is, in his teaching, says that suppose cloth were defiled and stained. So in other words, now he's setting up this picture. He says, suppose you have a piece of cloth that's defiled and stained, and a dyer dipped it in some other dye, whether blue or yellow or red or carmine. It would look poorly dyed and impure in color. So he's saying to us, if we don't work on clearing the mind / consciousness of its defilement, then no matter what we dump on top that's good, that's beneficial, it's going to be distorted. It's going to be I don't want to use the word impure because it's not always about that. But it's going to be distorted. And what we're trying to develop is that ability of insight, which is to be able to see things very clearly, and that we're not confused by what is presented through our senses. So it says, if we just dip dirty cloth, defiled cloth, stained cloth in paint, it's going to look poorly dyed and impure in color. And why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. So too, when a mind is defiled, an unhappy destination may be expected. Now, lots of times people think that the Buddha was talking about the hell realms as opposed to the realms of devas and gods. But what he's talking about, in my opinion, in my teaching, that I found beneficial, is that if you make mistakes on your interpretation of reality, and it comes back to your mind, it echoes back to your mind as defilements and distortion, you're already in the hell realm. You don't have to die. When you're in a place of unhappiness, in a place of nothing seems to be going right for me today, nobody loves me today, my horse ran away and my dog died, then you realize that right there in that day is an experience with unhappiness. And you can learn to live each day of your life no matter what the presentation is out there, that you can find something to be grateful for, something to be happy about, something to jump for joy about. No matter where you find yourself on the scale, that's my belief, and that's why I try to share the Dharma from my perspective. He says, suppose a cloth were pure and bright, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or carmine. It would look well dyed and pure in color. Why is that? Because of the purity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is undefiled, a happy destination may be expected. In other words, my day will be fantastic. And then, of course, it went on to speak about what is a defiled and what is the imperfections that defile the mind. And for those of you who weren't here on the past Tuesday, I will reread the imperfections that defile the mind. Covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Ill will, anger, resentment, contempt, insolence, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, revelry. Let's see, where was that? Revelry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
obstacles.
Well, I'll just start there. Covetousness, unrighteousness, greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Ill will, anger, resentment, contempt, insolence, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, conceit, arrogance, vanity, negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind. So in my opinion, what he's teaching us is that if we allow defilements or imperfection to infect the conscious stream, infect the medium by which we gather information and evaluate that information, that we will experience a distortion of our readout or our result, and that will cause us to be unhappy. That will cause us to feel deformed, uninformed, misinformed. We will find ourselves inhabiting the same mental environments and wondering why we can't have a better outcome, so to speak, why we can't have a good day. Why do we always feel like we can't get out of bed? So, what we did, or what I recommend that we do, is to begin to work on eliminating the defilements. And how we do that is by ignoring the defilements. So in other words, in our basic practice of sitting or walking or standing or lying down, where we focus on or just make ourselves available to the mind stream, and we observe with mindfulness what is going across our screen, what is moving from right to left or left to right, what thoughts, what ideas are arising, informing, going away and disappearing. And be honest, well, we want to be, honest with ourselves. We want to be able to evaluate the presence of unwholesomeness with the same robustness that we embrace wholesome or undefiled thoughts. Because we want to discover them. We don't want to hide from them. We don't want to push them in a corner. But we want to discover them, discover their presence. We want to go back to the 6th grade. We want to go back to some horrific moment in life that causes us from time to time to have a very dark moment in our day. And we want to make sure that we appreciate and understand that our experience of that event that happened in 1955 or 1965 or 1975 is not happening now except in our mind. So we can get to appreciate the fact of how real it feels to us. If we go back, or when we go back to any time other than this moment, we can experience the same feeling right now that we had then. If we go back and retrieve an experience in our lives, and then consider it, think about it, we will bring up with that image the same feeling that we had on that day when it happened, when we were there. And this is why we don't seem to be able to move forward as long as we don't diffuse and And hmm, well, I'll just use diffuse to disempower that moment, that experience, that day, that week that brings us so much grief and blues. Because again, it doesn't exist except in our mind. But knowing how powerful the mind is and how expressive the mind is, we then realize we have to go back and clean out the corners of the mind so that they can't defile, they can't influence in a negative way the imaging that I have running across my screen. But again, we must be honest with ourselves in what we see so that we can diminish and end the constant presentation of painful experiences and moments in our lives. So, it tells us that we have to abandon the defiled experience, the defilement that is causing us to continue to create pain in our lives, in our minds, in our world, and also in the minds and the world of those around us who associate with us. Because nobody who's a friend of ours wants us to be unhappy, wants us to suffer. So in our suffering, it's not just us, it's everybody around us that is influenced in a negative way because we choose to hold on to an idea or a thought or memory. So it's not just me, it's me and all of you that are impacted by my choices. So if that's some thought and some consideration, let it go. There are times and there are friends of ours and there are our own presences that don't seem to be able to give something up. You know, no matter how painful it might be, we seem to be reluctant to let go of it because of whatever reason that we give ourselves, whatever justification that we give ourselves. We seem to be able to we seem not to be able to give it up and walk away from it. And that is the inappropriate method of trying to separate ourselves from an experience that is painful and that we have sucked all of the life out of, but we keep nursing it. We think about what abandonment means to you. So all of us have had cars that we've abandoned. All of us have had relationships that we've abandoned, marriages that we've abandoned, friendships that we've abandoned, houses and residence and buildings and apartments that we've abandoned. And basically what that construct shows us or tells us that we must do is walk away from that. Walk away from that. So you say, well, how do I walk away from consciousness? How do I walk away from past experiences that are in my mind real and genuine and they happen? How do I not keep them alive and continue to associate with them. And the question is it a benefit? Does it make you happy or does it make you unhappy? Does it make you angry? Does it make you hateful? Does it make you, any of the negative defilements? Does it bring any of those up when I think about that experience, that thing? And if the answer is yes, then the next informative direction is to give it up and let it go. Well, how do you do that? You give it up and let it go. You replace the conscious stream that gives you pain with, if possible, the same conscious stream, but that having a different twist to it brings you happiness. If that doesn't work, then as opposed to the original experience and stream that causes you pain, think of something that's pleasant to you, that makes you happy. Whether it's your grandmother or, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's the fact that you are having an image in your mind that brings with it a residual happiness, a warmth, a pleasantness. And you can hold that for as long as you like. You are rewiring your neurons. You are saying that when I have seen this image, heard this sound, smelled this odor, that a certain consciousness arises within me, and that consciousness brings me sadness. Okay, so I can either stay with that until it goes away on its own, and it does try to go away on its own. I keep bringing it back. But remember that consciousness or thoughts come and go. They don't stay. They can't stay. They have no mechanism for staying. It is we who grab onto them and say, I'm not ready to let you go yet. I want to think about you some more. And we put on a record, or we put on this, or we think about that brings that melody, that refrain into the conscious stream, that causes us to feel a certain way. Now, it's not magic and it's not rocket science. It is, if it's pleasant and wholesome, then hold on to it. Enjoy it. If it isn't, let it go. Turn your back on it and let it go. Walk away from it. Now it will present itself some more. It will come around some more. And it'll even try to trick you. Try to say, well, I'm not that, I'm this. But if it makes you feel a certain way that is unpleasant, that it causes you to lose your love center, lose your mind, lose your peacefulness, then it's not worth it. It's not worth holding on to. And that you image in the mind the experience that does bring you that peacefulness, that sublimeness, that softness, that innocence. And you work with it as long as you want to. You can keep. Remember, all it takes is reflection to create it. So, abandoning what is unpleasant and conjuring up or projecting what is pleasant. That's your power, that's your relief, and that is how you restructure the brain so that it will go to that experience of joy and happiness as opposed to that experience of unhappiness and pain. So, he tells us that when you're glad, when you're happy, the mind becomes concentrated. So, we sit around on the cushion for days and weeks and months and years trying to get a concentrated mind when all we have to do is get happy. So it's very important that when Paniwadi and I and others and yourselves who are future teachers or present time teachers, that when you are teaching or presenting an exercise in concentration, that you ensure that covetousness and grief for the world has been abandoned. You can't hold both of them in the same container. You got to let one go, let the other go. So wanting things to be the way you want things to be is not what we're talking about either, because that is just gamemanship. We've got to learn how to be equally okay with what is and what isn't. There's a lot of unhappiness out in the world today. And denying that or presenting an idea that that doesn't exist is living your own life. However, we can always find something good, because that's the nature of objectivity, is that just as there is something good, there is something bad, or just as there is something bad, there's something good, because of the fact that there's a duality in the universe. There's a yin and yang in the universe. And it's not all this and it's not all that. Even when we are transitioning from one period to another period as far as consciousness is concerned, there's a duality that's present that is available to us to reside in. So, I found myself thinking about the Florida situation and thinking about some of the other things around the country and around the world where people are experiencing violence and all of the pain that creates in families and people who are experiencing this violence, people who are subjugated to this environment of violence. And I said, well, it's just about dying. It's just about impermanence. And when we, or if we have ever played this game, if we're old enough to play this game about how would I like to die? What do I want to have as my death experience? Now some people are, I don't want to think about that. Well, I don't care what you think about it or not, it's not happening. But you have people, there are people who will create a scenario of pleasantness and peacefulness and flowers and kittens at the time of the death. But the more realistic event is, would you like to die of a gunshot wound or would you like to die of cancer? Just ask yourself that question. Just, would I rather be shot or would I rather lay away in the bed and waste away and be filled with chemicals? And when you're able to look at the options without being afraid of the options, just look at the options. This is an option. Am I going to get my wish? Probably not. But we're talking about making yourself okay today. Yes, you are dying today. You know, how many cells do we shed in a day? We're dying every day. We're losing ourselves every day. We are transforming every day. We are dying to who we are and waking up being somebody different. The one you went to bed with is not the one you wake up with. You are not the same as you were when you went to bed the next morning. There's all of these transformations that go on, these beautiful things that you can say to yourself, this is truly a wonderful, beautiful experience. Life is great. Well, what about this? Well, what about that? That's why we study impermanence, so that we understand that it's never going to stay the same. I don't care how many inspections you give, how many prayers you send up, you are never going to have it the same from moment to moment. Things change. That's it. Either you're going to be okay with that, or you're going to be miserable with that and spend the rest of your life being miserable with that. Because that's going to go on. That's a given. You can't change that, but you can certainly change the structure, the way you look at it, and the way you embrace it. And that's what this is all about. If you are looking for something steady and unchanging, then you got to die. But as long as you're alive, it's going to keep changing. There's no groundhog days. Okay. So, what I would like to ask you to do, if you want to make it different, is to make sure that you start to work with abandoning the defilements. Because if you don't, no matter how much good Dharma you put into the conscious stream, it's going to be defiled by it, it's going to be polluted by it, it's going to be distorted by it, the garbage that's already there. So you want to stop replaying that record about how unhappy you are, how much you're suffering, how much you're grieving, and to start to practice finding in the moment something that makes you happy and glad. Not rich, not young again, something that makes you happy and glad. Because what this will do is make you valuable to your neighbor and your friends and your family. Do you remember the defilements? The energies that defile the mind. I will read them to you again. This is Sutta 7 in the Majjhima Nikaya. The title is The Simile of the Cloth. And it says, what are the imperfections that defile the mind? Covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Ill will, anger, resentment, contempt, insolence, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, arrogance, vanity, negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind. And I'm going to try to find out what they're talking about with negligence. I don't know what that might be. I know I can put a wag on it, but I'm not going to do that, because that's not what I'm here to do. But I'll try to find out what negligence, what does that mean? What am I doing when I'm being negligent? Maybe I'm being negligent. I don't know. Does anyone know? Okay. I don't know. You got a hand in the back. Now remember, this is an exercise, because I can't say, yeah, that was right. Okay.
I only have an idea. I can't say that I know per se, but negligence is...
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So, I've got an idea too, and he's got an idea too, and they've got an idea too. You know, talking about ideas, you have insightful wisdom to what they mean by negligence.
Yes.
Okay. Let's have it. Hit me with it.
When you have something that you're supposed to do but don't do, you're negligent.
Okay. That's all I can say. Thank you. I can say that. I'm going to double check. I will be honest with you with that, so I'll bring honesty to the table. And thank you so much for your, and I'll let you know whether, well, no, I'll let you know. Yes.
Joshua, I think that the term supposed to do is very, very heavy. And it's a very important decision we all have to make. What is reasonable, rational, and needed that I have to do that I'm avoiding?
You mean like abandoning defilements? Okay. There's also a sutta called effacement. And you know what effacement is? Right? The rubbing away of something. Usually talking about coins and carvings and reliefs and stuff like that. And that it has an even longer list of things we should not neglect and work on as far as our mind consciousness is concerned. So you want to work with and get used to modifying these defilements of the mind, and when that is done to your satisfaction, then you want to go to the sutta on effacement. And that's an even longer list of things that will benefit us and those around us by changing them and offering them and sharing them with others so that we'll all get the benefit and the desired results. How many have worked these exercises on eliminating or abandoning the defilements of the mind? Okay. And you were relatively successful in minimizing or doing that? No, you know, we're not. What we're doing is we're trying to solicit the approaches that were most successful.
So my work has been around awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel defilements rising, there's discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
So paying attention to that.
Mm-hmm.
An example is I'm working with a realtor that is working really hard, but it's becoming annoying.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I get a text from her, I feel this. And instead of appreciating the hard work that she's doing, the first thing that comes up is resentment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm catching myself early on.
Okay. So what I'd like to ask is why do you keep holding on to that resentment or unappreciation?
Well, that's what I discovered over the weekend.
Okay.
Is I just noticed that was, in the last week I get 4, 5, 10 texts. It's like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
But then I stopped and went, wow, she is doing such great work.
Mm-hmm.
And it shifted everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just one example of, for me, paying attention to when something comes up and something's up, to notice what it is and what's it connected to and go down that path.
Okay. And isn't that interesting that that's what mindfulness is all about?
Yes,
Paying attention to being in the present.
right.
Yeah. Remember when we talk about that thing called death and dying? As soon as this moment is finished, I'm another moment older. I'm another moment different. And there's another moment to create something entirely different than what I went through in the last moment. Okay? But you gotta be quick, because by the time you say, whoop, it's already gone. By the time you reach out for it, you want to grab onto it because that's a better idea, there's another moment that's there. And if you're there playing with this good idea in this moment, I've lost what this moment came to share with me. So, don't spend a lot of time on the defilement part. Because if I'm spending time on the defilement part, I'm not abandoning it. I'm thinking about it. I'm dialoguing about it. I'm even reconstructing it so that I can have a more peaceful abiding, that I can talk about it to others in a way that demonstrates I am paying attention to it. But then I've lost all of my concentration to this moment. I'm not paying attention to this moment because I'm still paying attention to that moment, which is now 15, 25, 30, 39, 42 minutes ago, moments ago. So we don't want to hold on to it too much, but we want to emphasize, we want to be more about paying attention to paying attention. Right? So instead of going back and anyway, you got it. Paying attention to paying attention. Any questions before we get out of here? Any comments?
I have a comment.
Okay.
It seems like the heart of what you're talking about is just practicing right effort. Just seeing whether you define it as a defilement or as an unwholesome state, just seeing it and then abandoning it.
Okay.
But negligence, to circle back to that for me and my understanding is when we just kind of choose to hang out in our stuff as opposed to abandon it.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Doc. All right.
Ruth raised her hand on Zoom.
Okay. And what did she say?
Hi, good morning. I just wanted to, I know you're all going to groan when I say this, but tell you a little bit about what the legal definition of negligence is.
Yes.
And, but it actually adds to this in an interesting way, because negligence is when you owe somebody a duty of care and you fail to do that. And that could be people known or unknown. So for example, if you own like a thrift store or something, you owe a duty of care to everybody who comes through the door to make sure that the premises is safe and they're not going to fall and hurt themselves, for example. If you fail to secure your premises, somebody does fall, then you've been negligent. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Ruth.
you.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you. All right. Yes.
I was trying to get at before was that if wrong motives are making one feel that they're negligent, one has to be very wise as to where where the motivation comes from. We can be led by emotional issues. You owe me this, you should be doing that, and that's something we all have to deal with and weigh.
I agree. So we all have, there's always the possibility of having a different point of view. And being kind and loving is to be able to say okay for yours, just like I say okay for his. And truly mean it, not just for you, okay, let's move on, but to truly give the space, the opportunity for each person to present it in a way that they feel is true and guidance. And the one thing that I don't do is to pretend that I know what I don't know. And I think that that's a part of not being negligent. Like I said, everybody has a way, but that just gets you in trouble. So, having said that, thank you all. Work on your stuff. Work on the defilements, and also go back and see if you can pull up the effacement, the pseudo effacement, so that you can even have a longer list of defilements that you can work on. And be happy. May all beings be liberated from suffering. May we be well. May we be happy. May we be peaceful. Thank you. I love you. Don't get wet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't get wet.